I'm interested in the process of unlearning that. What did you call it? Shame-based faith, or like we have to follow the Bible like a set of instructions, and if we don't do the correct thing, then we're wrong. How did you unlearn that theology and then start to relearn what a relationship with Jesus actually is? Are you able to talk me through that process? Feel free to start wherever.
Sure. Let's see if we can talk you through that process.
Because it's huge. It's huge, right? Like, it's like I mean, I resonate. Like, I grew up with this idea of like, God is this angry God and he's going to punish me if I have sex or do drugs. And it's crazy. I just feel free to start wherever. And if you stutter, that's okay. Because it's a big question, but I'm just so interested in it, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I think it is going to be and continue to be a lifelong process of unlearning, because it is pretty deeply ingrained. I mean, I didn't grow up in evangelicalism. I did grow up in the southeastern U.S., which like evangelicalism is very much just in the water. But I, kind of college after college gravitated towards these more high control spaces. And really like, I think that, I have a tendency to people please. I have a tendency to like want to like just so deeply want to know what the quote unquote right thing is, the right way to be, the right way to live and all of that so that I can conform myself to that versus, I don't know, letting myself be a person. And a lot of that shame was also, wrapped up in like being being so closeted to myself as a queer person. There was just so much of myself that I was terrified to look at and terrified to be honest about. And just really terrified of what felt like too much for any person or God to handle. And a lot changed for me when I moved to New York. There was a lot that was already kind of shifting in me just because, I was right before I moved to New York, I was at this church that was low-key pretty culty. But it was like super conservative, super evangelical. And, the pastor would like be on stage saying stuff like, I don't agree with anything about feminism except that men are the problem. And I was only in that church for a couple of years. I didn't have a relationship with him or, have the space to go up and be like, do you not think I should like be able to vote? Where does this line of the evils of feminism, where is that drawn for you? But, like stuff like that where there was just, he was like very insistent on like if you were baptized as a child or an infant, that doesn't count. You have to be baptized as an adult, and just framed it in a way that like very much felt delegitimizing. But I think that was one of the first times where I stayed in that environment, but I like kind of started to question. I was like, I don't actually think that's true. Like, I think you can be a Christian and a feminist because I am. I think that I don't think that you get to determine whether my baptism was legitimate or not. I don't think that's on you, my guy. So questions like that and, I was part of a music program. And so I was having these really positive interactions with queer people. That was very much contrasting with what, the general vibe was about homosexuality in that church and in other environments that I was part of, which was, you can't be gay and a Christian. Whereas I was having these actual experiences with people who like loved me so well and were so kind and generous with me. So I think that's kind of where it started. And then I moved to New York, which was like night and day. I'm the quintessential like small town farm girl who moved to the big city. That's my story. But yeah, I moved here and I ended up at a church that was also pretty conservative. But I had like a really positive community there in a lot of ways, that supported, when I moved, obviously, like it was such a different environment and a lot got stirred up in the move where I all of a sudden wasn't in this environment where I could assume the people walking down the street like went to church on Sunday, because that was just such a part of the culture where I was from, and it's not a thing here. There was that kind of, I was no longer in an environment where my faith was just something I could take for granted. I was surrounded by people who did not think like I did, and who did not believe like I did. And so it really empowered me to start asking questions about my faith and to start kind of really trying to figure out, okay, what does this mean for me? What do I believe about this? And I think, part of that was that the church I went to, although it was very conservative in a lot of ways, they were complementarian, so women couldn't be in leadership. They're non-affirming. It was what's called seeker friendly. And so it's a place where they really do want people to come and explore. There is kind of, to me, there was a sense of trying to guide people towards the quote unquote right answer, which was their like way of interpreting things. But I do also think there was an earnest desire for like having open conversations about big questions of faith. It was helpful to be in a place where that was encouraged, even as I was still in an environment where there were these very clear kind of intense boundaries on what a Christian looks like.